in the NBA Finals.
But that was me.
And you know what? And I looked up, I was like, who is that?
And why is someone saying she's on fire? Because that's pretty much what it looked like, something from NBA Jam for some reason. Take a look again. There it is.
Man, you stayed with it, though. I'll give you that. You stayed with it.
I feel like Rex Chapman blocker charge on that. Maybe.
No, I swear to God, I remember that play, and I remember taking it out of bounds.
Was it too late, though? When
no.
You saw it happening, and it was just like you couldn't abort mission?
I was taking the charge, and I was like, oh, wow, he gonna jump over my head. And, you try to fake it. And then when I took it out of bounds, I said, Joe, did you see that? He goes, yeah, Ziggy, he jumped over your head. and people probably thought that we was calling the play, but we were walking up the court
just talking about it.
Damn, can you believe that? That's what he just did? Or that's what Candace just did to me?
Yes, exactly. In retrospect, that's why we have good video in HD now. By the way, speaking as we look ahead, our video, Lakers Bulls coming up here, center court. We tell you about all the cool stuff going on tonight in addition to traditional studio and game coverage. Don't forget, get us on social media, hashtag center court. And that's not it. In addition to center court, we got front court, back court, game feeds. Get over to the NBA app. You got 2 new and unique cameras, coverage, advanced stats of tonight's Lakers and Bulls game. All sorts of different things taking you behind the scenes like you've never been before. And we mean really like you've never been before, because we're going behind the scenes and nearby to an undisclosed location for the A-listers. Of course, we're talking about BA and GA on the call tonight. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing great. You sound great. All 3 of you do it, as if you're next door. Sounds fantastic.
We can hear the echo.
Hey, I just want to know why y'all dunking on my man, the GOAT. I wasn't feeling that one.
GA,
I was not happy about that.
They dunking all on my head, but GA, but while you back there, I just want you to know, brother, I love you. But I'm gonna get some of them lemon pepper chicken wings you got sitting there.
They on fire too, boy. I can't wait.
Me and Candace been talking about
it. We got dibs on those chicken
Casey, you know what they call guys like us? They call us credit card verticals,
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be the first week of the season we're discussing chicken wings.
That's right. And vertical jumps and what have you. And there's also a bit of news coming out of Chicago from yesterday. I know that's not exactly where you wanted to head with this, but I think it's probably the best way to start our game coverage tonight with Anthony Davis, who was in the headlines often last year with trade discussions, just kind of casually mentioned as he was visiting with the Boys and Girls Club in Chicago. He's from Chicago. He's back at the United Center tonight. They asked him, would you consider playing in Chicago? He goes, oh, well, I am a free agent, so we'll see. Yeah. Your thoughts?
I think it was the right thing to say in the moment. In reality, though, Anthony Davis knows his best chance to win championships is in Los Angeles with this roster. And I think he's getting a taste of being a part of something that can be special. Don't get me wrong, Chicago's got a good young core nucleus, but right now Anthony Davis reaching the prime of his career, playing with one of the greatest, if not the greatest player that's ever played the game, and they're playing at a high level. And I just don't see a scenario. This won't be a Kawhi Leonard where they get to rent a ring, which what Toronto did a season ago. I think this is a long-term play for him, potentially, but being from Chicago and the fan base there, I don't think he wanted to, basically kind of dampen their parade by coming out and saying there's no chance he'd be a Bull.
Some players like to go into a visiting arena. They thrive on being booed. Isaiah Thomas would be one of those. You would be one of those players. We saw Derrick Rose enter into the United Center the other day, coming in with the Detroit Pistons, and he was cheered robustly. I think Anthony Davis might get the same kind of welcome, especially after the comments yesterday. But all he's done in the city of Chicago, he has a camp every summer there on the south side. He's from the south side of Chicago. This is going to be fascinating to see how Bulls fans, their team in a rebuild, watches Anthony Davis and the potential that he could be in a Bulls uniform one day.
BA, they're going to welcome him with open arms because, in essence, they're auditioning for him. And that's why I do think he's going to get a rousing ovation. I do think once the game gets going, though, they may turn a little bit against him because the Bulls fan base is beloved with their team. But ultimately, listen, if you had an opportunity to get a player of that caliber on that roster, it would change the fortunes, much like Derrick Rose did when he came to the Bulls. No doubt they'd love to have him there. I just don't see that one playing out that way. Frank Vogel told us, he's like, I haven't given it any thought.
Yeah, let it pass.
Yeah,
that's one we just
on.
let pass. But we appreciate that from Anthony Davis, Casey. You know, that provided us some nice fodder prior to our game tonight. Lakers have won 5 straight. Bulls have just 1 win on their home floor. That came last Friday against the Pistons and Derrick Rose. So we'll see how it shapes up here tonight. Should be a fun one.
Good news, no controversy here between where you are on your site and us. We're sharing the same home. You're in the living room. We're over in the dining room. So we're good.
This is our starting 5 right
yes,
here.
Right.
This is it.
Exactly.
This is it.
Exactly.
No, don't take any charges.
We really need
no
more
taking charges.
Let's be honest.
That's the rule.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Greg was great at taking charge.
We look forward to the call of the game. When you think about AD, you can't say anything nowadays. And they have like an old school in wrestling, the cheap pops, where you say something in front of a home crowd to get them behind you. I mean, as to Chicagoans, who's going to go in front of a crowd in Chicago? Nah, I don't want to come back home. I never play here. Well, how do you say there?
No, I think all of us as Chicago kids growing up, I mean, you always fantasize about playing at home and being in front of your home crowd and, you know, mom and dad and your friends watching and everything else. And I remember when Derrick Rose was drafted by the Bulls, you know, I said then he's living all of our childhood dreams, being able to run out, you know, with the Chicago Bulls. And now, wearing number 1 from Chicago. I mean, that's all we heard growing up as kids. So, of course, Anthony would entertain looking at it, just like Kawhi, even though he won the championship in Toronto. You know, that seductiveness of always wanting to come back home. You know, you always want to come back home and be a part of it, and it's very seductive.
You know, the other thing is, as star athletes, which both of you were, we're in a day and age now, Candace, everything that is asked of AD between now and wherever he decides to be long-term is going to be ridiculed or loved, depending upon who you are. So you almost have 2 choices, right? Don't say anything, and then you get chastised for that, or you say what comes to mind, and then you get killed for that, too.
I just go back to the blueprint of Kawhi Leonard and how Kawhi Leonard handled last season with Toronto. I'm not talking about it. You saw Kyrie that came out and said in Boston he would love to be here next year. And then he goes to the Nets. You know, obviously you see AD in this trade. He wanted to be in Los Angeles. Los Angeles was in his short list. Chicago was not in his short list of places he wanted to go. So I do think, you know, either way, you would be chastised with whatever decision you make. But I think the best sometimes is just to say, I'm focused on LA right now, and we'll make that decision when the time comes.
I would say the gig is pretty good right now. Obviously, early in the season, 5 out of 6 on the win total. But AD not surprising us. We know how great he is. Was great here last week. But how about Dwight Howard? Because he's been relevant, and we were talking before the show, the word fit is a word you brought up. How much is that really the headline of why, Candace, this has worked?
Well, Dwight Howard going 7 for 7 last game and coming up with huge extra possessions for them, which is what they have needed in the past, especially with LeBron, plays great off of that. You know, just energy, effort. And, you know, he's been hampered with injuries over the past couple years, so I think his explosiveness has, you know, suffered in a way. But keeping him off of the boards in his career has been something that has been a nightmare for most teams. They don't need him to make post moves. They don't need him to manufacture offense. They need him to go get the ball off the backboard.
Yeah, and they have, what they have to me, they have 3 athletic bigs when you look at with Anthony Davis, when you throw him in there also. The other thing that is shocking to me is just really just their size. I mean, they may be the biggest, tallest, most athletic team in the NBA right now, top to bottom. And they're covered in every area. And I think you got to give Pelinka a lot of credit, you know, for pulling the roster together, you know, grabbing different pieces, getting them all on the same page. And then LeBron, of course, is LeBron. But, you know, I think defensively where they coming at, you know, Avery Bradley, game 1, day 1, you know, stepping out, being able to guard the best player. They got defenders, they got rim protectors, they got shot makers, and you know, They are looking really good. They're
And
looking really good.
Going back to what you were saying with Pelinka, I mean, there was a time where Dwight Howard was not on the roster.
Yeah.
Had DeMarcus Cousins not gotten hurt,
Oh, they got him
he
too.
might not.
Wow.
Yeah, he might not have been on the roster. It was a decision between Joakim Noah and Dwight Howard, and everybody criticized him for going with Dwight Howard, and it looks right now like that was the correct move.
Yeah.
And sometimes when, like we've seen with Golden State for years, the rest of what you have, right, works. Guys can fit in. You mentioned Danny Green. You think about Avery Bradley. I want to ask you guys, LeBron, 11-plus assists per game. We know about it. I saw you even doing it here. Once a facilitator, always, you even see Zeke on the desk. I don't know who he's passing to. Certainly not giving up the chicken wings. But how about how LeBron has tried to, because it's going to take time, forget just the 5-and-1 Zeke, tried to really influence the facilitating into the offense?
I look at LeBron, and right now he gets to play like he played in high school. You know, he's always been a facilitator, even though he scores at a great clip. But he's always been a very giving, willing passer and a good teammate. And I look at he and Rondo being two guys that most of these guys have never played with two passers, two facilitators on this level. So when you put LeBron and Rondo together on this type of team, I mean, they can really facilitate, pass, and make it easy for everyone else.
And honestly, Casey, I think the biggest thing offensively initially in that game one, they didn't really know how to get AD the ball. But then what they've done since that game one, they're playing defense. I mean, they're third in the NBA. As we saw, they're third in the NBA in points allowed. And I mean, if they keep doing that, that's what people harped on them last year for, was their lack of defensive effort.
We sat here for years really deconstructing the Warriors, right? 6, 7, 8, 10 games in. After game 17, join us in a couple of weeks. We'll be doing the same thing, right, again, with the Lakers. We'll also be going back in the past, the OG bringing something a little bit different and bringing everything to a place when it once was the Mecca. We're talking about the other king on the other side. And then, of course,
Oh, look out!
Don't take the charge.
king of the castle,
Bam!
master of her domain.